Yeah, so I'm out here wandering around, and I always bring some bags with me just in case there's something to be harvested. Um, and today I found myself some wintergreen. I guess it's not really the best time to be harvesting wintergreen. It's still green, wintergreen. I suppose the best time would be closer to fall, late fall, maybe after the first frost if you want the berries. Um, but it's something that, early spring is still out there and still relatively palatable and still kind of good for you. Um, yeah, so I'm hoping to show you just a couple little examples of this beautiful plant. So here he is, wintergreen. And you can see this guy here. He still has a little berry on him, hiding under there. I found some really quite nice big berries as well, still. And they're pretty darn tasty. Well, they taste like wintergreen. It's not just a word, it's a plant. And I found them in a variety of places. We've got some here underneath this tree. And the stuff we've got going on in this area, we've got some birch, there's some hardwood. In other areas, you can find it in some evergreen stuff as well. And this is just, what I've kind of found through my searching. Here's another little one. All of these green bits around here are wintergreen. And they do look, I suppose, if you're to the untrained eye, a little bit like poison ivy, but they don't necessarily have three leaves coming out of the same spot. See, it's up and down the shaft, and I know there's probably a lot of like botanical words for that sort of stuff. I really don't know them. I'm just sort of learning as I go. And in the winter, or in the early spring here, what I'm doing is just kind of taking some of the nicer looking leaves. I wouldn't necessarily grab one that looks like this. It's kind of got some spots on it and it's already started to decay. Their flavor, their medicinal properties are not going to be as nice right now as they are in the late fall or early winter. But you can still make a pretty decent tea out of them. You can see this tree is just kind of encircled with them. There's quite a bit of it over here by the creek as well. There's a little brook going down there. I'm not going to get too close because you won't be able to hear me. Heaven forbid. But yeah, so this is what it looks like. And this is a little berry hanging out on the plant there. Here's a nice example of a little berry. There he is. So this one here is rare. This guy has 1, 2, 3, 4 berries on him. That's a whole lot. Usually the plants might have 1 or 2 berries. So this guy is obviously a pretty hardy plant. Now, one of the rules when you're foraging is not to necessarily take more than 1/3. And you don't want to remove the plants that are the strongest either. You want to leave those there for sustainability so that they'll be able to come back nice and strong the next time. So I am going to take one of these tiny little berries and throw them in my little bag over here. Just a simple shopping bag, nothing fancy. Nothing fancy, but it's food safe, so that's good to know. Get in there. Yeah, and I'm not going to take any of these leaves, obviously. They've already turned red. They've likely lost some of their tastiness and some of their properties. But I thank this little plant a whole lot. Like, look at those. Those are massive. You have no idea. They're so big, those berries. Oh, in focus. There we go. Now this here is not wintergreen. Not entirely sure what it is. Sorry about my fingers in the way there. Not entirely sure what it is. I know I've read up on a look-alike plant called partridge berry, where they have tiny little red berries that come in a big bunch. Maybe that's what this is. I don't really know what to say about the plants that aren't the plants that I want to forage, and maybe that's something that I will get better at as well. Um, but this isn't waxy. It's thick. It's rough though. It's not nice and smooth. And another way to tell wintergreen from other look-alike plants is to just crush a leaf. And you'll definitely smell that wintergreen smell, particularly in the fall and early winter. Not as potent in the springtime, however. Yeah. So don't pick things like this. It's kind of viney, whereas wintergreen is a little bit more of like a shrub coming straight out of the ground. These guys kind of have runners and stuff that trail along the ground, as you can see. So don't eat that, whatever it is. Don't pick it. And so as I pick, oh, it's that snow is so white. As I pick, I'm also finding that if you come across a little patch and there's a little bit of snow around, what you can do is just dig under a little bit. And oftentimes, oh, and of course, this is going to fail me. See, oftentimes the stuff that's under the snow is really nice and fresh. The leaves haven't degraded too much. I guess they've been nicely insulated under that snow. Oh, a little couple spots on the back end there. But this guy here, I had just pulled out of the snow, which is why I wanted to talk about it. And he's looking really nice. Like, that's a beautiful, beautiful little leaf right there. And he says I can take him. And that is so wonderful. Thank you, Mother Nature, for your bounties. And this is another one of my favorite plants. He's not at his best right now in early winter, but this guy here is called Labrador Tea. Let's get him in frame there. Labrador Tea. I love him, and I don't know why, but it's one of the first plants that I started foraging. And you can see he's got a nice little furry orangish underside there. That is unmistakable. He's also got thick, waxy leaves here. Really good, actually, at this time, as it's great for respiratory ailments. It's great for inflammation. Apparently, it's also good for blood sugar. And here's a really nice, oh, not super nice. He's got a little blemish there. Like I said, this isn't his best showing. A little later on in the summer, or later in the spring, I should say. Perhaps I'll do just a little bit about Labrador Tea as well. Patch here has a ton of berries. You can see they're tiny little red bits hiding under all of the leaves. Oh, look at that one. 3. You can see these leaves are a little bit different shaped. I don't know, I'm sure there's probably different varieties of them. And actually these leaves tasted really, really wintergreeny. Really tasty. And you'll notice that too. Depends on the area. Maybe it's because it's on a little slope and it might get a lot of sun out there. Not entirely sure. Oh, there's even more berries over there. You can see them all under those little red leaves. So yeah, they're red now, but they would be green. And so here we have the final product. let it sit in the room for about 5 days. So it is cloudy because it's got some fermentiness to it. So if you're not a kombucha kind of fan, if you don't really like that fermented sort of flavor, my advice to you would be to make more of a regular tea where you would mash up the berries and the leaves and just put them in a pot of water. Not necessarily boiling, but letting it sit for a good amount of time to really impart those flavors and the delicious properties into it. If you like the kombucha thing, if you like that interesting flavor, do the fermented style. It's really neat. Yesterday it was almost effervescent, like it had a little bit of bubbles to it. It was really, really awesome. Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this little journey into early spring wintergreen foraging. I may do a video a little closer to the fall again about wintergreen, but stay tuned for some other foraging ideas. Thanks for watching.